Welcome to the Explainer. I am so thrilled you're here because today we're diving into something raw, intense, and honestly completely eye-opening. We're talking about the absolute limits of human mind control. We're going to break down the core philosophy of David Goggins, pulling directly from the source material that chronicles his wild transformation. So if you've ever felt stuck, like your own mind is secretly working against you, well, you are in exactly the right place. We're going to map out exactly how you can rewrite that mental hard drive of yours. Okay, let's just dive right into this. Are you only living a small fraction of your potential? I know, it's a heavy question right out of the gate. But deep down, do you ever get that sinking feeling that you've secretly surrendered? Like you've just accepted a lesser version of your life? The source material we're digging into today pulls absolutely zero punches. It shows us that pain, fear, and excuses, those are our absolute biggest enemies. And to defeat them, to shatter those limits we put on ourselves, we've got to stop making excuses right this second. The complacency ends today. Chapter 1, Facing Your Truth. So to break his own brutal cycle of trauma and failure, Goggins created this concept called the accountability mirror. Now, he didn't start out as some untouchable superhero. Actually, his childhood was heavily shaped by trauma, fear, violence, poverty, the whole shebang. He struggled deeply in school, constantly felt inferior, and slowly bought into this incredibly toxic narrative that he was just worthless. And honestly, this is right where most people stop. They build up a fake narrative, they hide behind it, and well, that pretty much guarantees failure. But instead of hiding, Goggins literally stood in front of a mirror and just stopped running. He looked right at his own reflection and admitted, out loud, that he was lying to himself. He admitted he was weak and that he was lazy. Now, it is incredibly painful to accept that you aren't where you want to be. But as our source points out, you simply cannot change until you accept your absolute, unvarnished current reality. So the absolutely crucial point here is this inventory. What would you see if you looked in your own accountability mirror right now? Are you truly giving it your all, or are you just, putting on a show for everybody? We love to use these shields, right? Oh, I don't have time, or my circumstances are just too tough right now, or I don't have the money. But guess what? Those are just stories. They're comfortable little fictions we tell ourselves to avoid the deep, stinging pain of our ugly truths. The times we quit when things got hard, the relationships we completely failed to nurture, the dreams we just let wither away. You have to drop that shield completely if you actually want to grow. Chapter 2, Freedom from Victim Mindset. When you start moving toward that freedom, you immediately hit a fork in the road. On one side, you've got the victim mindset screaming, my circumstances are bad. And on the other, the growth mindset, simply stating, this is my responsibility. And this brilliantly illustrates the divide. Let me share a perfect example from the text. When Goggins first went through Navy SEAL training, he failed. His body was literally breaking down under the immense physical and mental strain. He had every valid excuse in the book to blame his physical injuries or the sheer, undeniable brutality of the training environment. But instead, he took total ownership. He didn't blame his failing body. He blamed his own lack of preparation. He chose the mindset of responsibility, and that single shift made all the difference in his eventual success. So how do we actually pull this off on a daily basis? Well, it boils down to a 3-step process. Step 1, catch the excuse. When your brain inevitably whispers, I'm just too tired today, catch it red-handed. Step 2, demand the truth. Ask yourself, okay, is that a literal fact, or is it just a really convenient excuse? Spoiler alert, most of the time, it's totally an excuse. And step 3, take ownership. See, when you systematically train your brain to catch these lies every single day, you stop handing the control of your life over to outside circumstances. You put yourself firmly back in the driver's seat. Chapter 3, Breaking the Comfort Zone. The safe path makes you weak. Look, the life you are living right this very second is simply the sum of your habits, and way too often, those habits are locked inside a prison. The terrifying thing about the comfort zone, it is an invisible, completely painless prison. There was a time in Goggins' life when he was heavily overweight, working a total dead-end job with absolutely zero direction. Every single day was the exact same, comfortable, unchallenging, just going through the motions. You see, your brain's primary job is actually to keep you safe from pain and discomfort. It actively tries to steer you away from hard things. But here's the kicker. If you listen to that voice of safety, you are actively choosing weakness every single time. And that realization brings us to a really vital concept, callousing the mind. Think about it. Just like your hands build calluses and get tough from hours of hard physical labor, your mind gets significantly tougher by intentionally doing the things that make you deeply uncomfortable. Goggins absolutely hated running, right? So what did he do? He forced himself to run. He struggled big time with reading, so he forced himself to read. When your brain is screaming at you to stop because you're scared or uncomfortable, you have to flip the script. Use that fear as a green light. It is a direct signal that you absolutely must keep moving forward.
Chapter 4, the 40% Rule and Discipline. Now, what's really interesting about this breakdown is the actual math of our exhaustion. When you feel like you have given absolutely everything you have, when your body is screaming and your mind is literally begging you to quit, guess what? You have only tapped into 40% of your actual capability. Yeah, 40%. The other 60% is just untapped potential sitting right there in reserve. Your brain is just trying to protect you, firing off these massive false alarm signals. But if you can just push past that initial wall of suffering, there is a massive reservoir of power just waiting for you to use it.
Motivation is fleeting, but extreme discipline, that is forever. If you want to access that remaining 60%, you absolutely cannot rely on just feeling good. I mean, motivation is great. It might get you started on a sunny Tuesday when you've had 8 hours of sleep, but it will absolutely bail on you when it's raining, when you're exhausted, and when things get incredibly hard. Extreme discipline means doing the work whether you feel like doing it or not, period. It's about taking your feelings and completely removing them from the equation, because honestly, that is the only way you actually expand your limits. Chapter 5. Never be satisfied. I really want you to let this next thought sink in. The moment you settle, you extinguish the fire that makes you extraordinary. It is so incredibly tempting, right? You achieve a small victory, you hit a milestone, and then you just kind of kick your feet up and relax. But our source text warns us that this is a fatal mistake. The word enough might just be one of the most dangerous words in the human vocabulary. If you look in the mirror and say, hey, I'm better than I used to be, that's enough, well, you just stopped growing right then and there. True growth means adopting a mindset where you never, ever let yourself get completely comfortable with your current standard. True growth means you have to step into what we can call the endless loop of greatness. It works like this. You achieve the goal. Awesome. Then you immediately ask, okay, what's next? And then you outgrow your old self. You can't just pat yourself on the back because you beat the 2022 version of you. You have to leave that old version completely in the dust every single day. Because in life, there really is no middle ground. You are actively growing and pushing to get better, or you're slowly declining. So, we're going to wrap up this explainer with one final, lingering question. Are you ready to change yourself today? And I mean today, not tomorrow, not next week, today. Look, you are your own worst enemy for sure, but your mind is also your absolute ultimate weapon. So are you going to keep being a slave to your mind's endless desire for comfort, or are you going to step up, take control, and become the master of it? The choice is entirely yours. But remember, if you don't make the choice to change today, you probably never will. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I really hope this sparks the fire you need to push way past your 40%.